We have an excellent Burgundy today, a Fixin from Hevelet, 1973, and I'd like you all to have a taste of it before we start anything, before we get into the important issues and ideas in the world of art that we're going to be discussing. If you'll pass that down, please. Thank you. Pass that down. The 73 Burgundy requires a certain amount of air. We've given this about an hour and a half to breathe, so perhaps you would care to taste it and let me know. Maybe your opinion will differ from my opinion, and we want opinions that differ in this discussion today. I think that'll do very nicely. Do you find it satisfactory? I'm very pleased to welcome to my discussion today some very distinguished figures in the world of art, in the world of museum administration. We have curators, educators, and specialists in the field. I'll start off by introducing Mr. Chuck Hovland, who is a sales supervisor at the Guggenheim Museum in New York City. And we also have today Dr. Judith Van Baren, who is formerly Chief Director of the Bronx Museum of the Arts and is currently the Director of the Monmouth County Museum in the Garden State. And we also have today Miss Marcia Tucker, who is a well-known celebrity in the New York art field. She has been a curator at the Whitney Museum of American Art and is currently the founding director of the New Museum, one of the liveliest and most adventurous places of the many exhibition centers in Manhattan. The title of today's program is Outreach, the changing role of the art museum. And I have a number of questions that I should like to introduce, and perhaps some of our guests, panelists will have statements that they may care to offer. You indicated you might have a statement, a prepared statement, Ms. Tucker. Would you care to begin our program with your statement?
I lied.
Oh, you don't have the statement. Your papers on the floor there's no statement whatsoever. Well, perhaps I can begin in that case by asking several questions, which I shall throw open to the floor. It has to do with the problem of auxiliary activities in the museum. Today's museums, as we know, are not limited to the exhibition of paintings, but rather any number of auxiliary activities, mainly those designed to enrich the museum resources programs. And perhaps Mr. Hoving would care to tell us something about the auxiliary activities that he sponsors.
Speaking to me?
Yes?
It's Mr. Hovland.
Oh, Mr. Hovland, rather, yes. Mr. Hovland would perhaps care to tell us about auxiliary activities at the Guggenheim Museum.
Well, when you first told me that it was outreach, I like to think of it more as in-reach. We're trying to get people to come into the museum, not sending our ideas out of the museum. Now, do you think the camera can
Well, I'm
see it
sure
with
that
these
that's
flowers?
just fine the way it is, Mr. Hoving.
We're trying to get activities to make people come into the museum. Now, we all know that in this day and age, people like to shop. So we're trying to build up our sales area, getting new and interesting items to have people to come into the museum to shop, to spend their money. Now, we've got a new line of goods that people really like. We've gotten salt and pepper shakers, exact replicas of the Guggenheim.
Well, I'm
And
sure that
I have
that
You could give me a list of some of these wonderful items.
We
for
have a
our gift
wonderful
shop,
wonderful catalog.
Because we found that these particular items are
Well,
really hot
I don't
sellers.
know if we have to go
Especially
through an
replicas.
entire
We especially
Well,
like
you do.
replicas
Lists
at
Well,
our
you know,
Well,
I have a
and
Westinghouse.
we've got a
Listen,
scarf,
I got it.
a scarf that looks
scarf. I have a
beautiful,
Westing- I have a-
beautiful
Is
with
it a
that.
signed scarf?
A signed,
It has the
numbered
name.
I
edition.
wonder if I might
I
ask
have a
another
TV where if you
question
turn
here.
the thing, the salt and peppers rise. and
It's
fun.
interesting as this catalog of goods that are offered at your museum is, I'm sure, very fine. collection of items that shoppers throughout the metropolitan area
We've got
would
beautiful
be interested.
earrings,
However,
exact replicas
yes.
of the museum that are earrings.
Yes. Perhaps Dr. Van Baren,
Pardon?
Are they signed
No,
also?
no,
they're not.
they're not
perhaps
signed
Dr.
because we
Van
don't want
Baren would like to
compete.
tell us some of the outreach activities that she has introduced at the Monmouth County Museum, ways in which her museum is reaching out to the community and ways in which the local community in Monmouth is reaching out to the Monmouth County Museum.
We have a lovely outreach program which involves artists who are paid by CETA. Of course, you know that CETA is the Comprehensive Training Act for employing persons who otherwise would not be employed. And we have given these persons an opportunity to represent us in the community. We go to many different centers, senior citizen centers, and to mental retardation centers, and we feel that by bringing these groups in direct contact with the museum, that we have provided a very important service to our
Do you ever put any
community.
exhibitions for these groups at your
Yes,
museum?
we have. We have had hands-on exhibitions for people who are not as visually trained as the rest of us might be, and we found that quite successful.
I see. You know, Dr. Angela Churchill, the head of the Art Education Department at New York University, is fond of saying that for her, all a museum has to do is hang up the picture and turn on the lights. Would you say that that philosophy coincides with your own?
Absolutely, if you can hang it and do that. We have a current exhibition of knights in armor, and it is a bit difficult to hang these things.
The
We're going
faster
into
you get it up,
multimedia.
the
you
faster
see.
you get it up,
That's
the
right,
more people that
absolutely.
can come in.
That's true, and it's a
The
matter
faster they
of
can come in.
numbers. You see, when you're talking about outreach, you're talking about numbers.
We have something that is very similar, actually, to the CETA program, but it is called DITA, and it is the Discriminatory Employment Training Act. And we have chosen a very select, highly select group of people to work within a fine arts context. And we really send our people out trained. I mean, we really send them out as MPs, museum
You train
professionals.
By
the
discriminatory,
museum, the
could
museum
you-
itself.
Oh, the museum itself trains them.
Trains
What do you mean
them.
by discriminatory? Do you mean you are
We
discriminating
select
in your
only.
selections? Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We really believe in quality, because
I see.
you see, I believe that what a museum means is quality.
I see. Does this quality, I would imagine it must also refer to the quality of the personnel, your full-time personnel at the museum. And we all know the enormous difficulty in recruiting personnel. Or did you finish that already, Mr. Hovling?
Yes.
Yes. Well,
Hovland,
why don't you
please.
have, excuse me, Mr. Hovland,
Here,
perhaps you would have another.
Just
Let's do this, please.
Well, I think I could handle it. Thank you, Ms.
Oh,
Tucker.
I see, of course.
Has had so many years in
Fingerprints.
Paris, you know. But
Perhaps you have another
Yes, I
drop
love
in
it.
your glass.
I would
Marsha
love
Tucker,
another
director of the
drop,
New Museum,
please.
and Dr. Judith Van Baren, my other very distinguished guest,
take a
director of
degree
the
in
Monmouth
medicine
County
or-
Museum in the
Well,
Garden
I've been
State.
accused of that, but actually I have
Mr.
never
Hovland, you have
prescribed
your-
drugs.
your
You've
glass
never
there.
prescribed drugs. I do prescribe drugs, you know, from time
Well,
to
on
time.
occasion, I suppose in this
Valium,
program
and,
that you have, this discriminatory program that
You know,
have,
I've
that
been
would be
thinking of
quite
getting into
useful.
that, getting into some drugs.
We were
and
discussing
selling them,
very good.
selling them in the
Gellucil,
museum.
That's right.
Gellusil is
Because
good.
this could
Well, I
attract
don't know if
a
that's
younger
something we want to
side of-
discuss.
Malox?
I think
a
that's
younger
correct.
audience
Yes.
that bypass.
Drug rehabilitation.
What do you mean
they
have-
bypass
you
the
mean-
museum.
We have
If they
local
sell them in the
ordinances
museum,
here. There are
it will get them in
governmental
and they will
regulations.
enrich their lives.
There are
Once
federal
they're in
rules
there,
and
Well, they
regulations.
sell
Once
it
they're inside the
anyhow, you
museum,
know.
then
I
they'll
mean,
get into the paintings.
Can you imagine
Of
having a
course.
jazz concert in your museum?
Mr. Hoving,
not
I'm sure
providing
you are
food?
not
I mean, of
suggesting
course.
that the museum should bypass the federal regulations and the guidelines concerning the distribution of
Well, drugs are
prescription
going to be legal
items.
any day now. And we want
And we should be in
we
the
think a museum
avant-garde.
should be
After all,
ahead
the
of its
museum
time.
is the leader in the community.
Ahead of its time.
Well, it has been proposed that the Metropolitan Museum take its Roman baths and certain evenings open the Roman baths at the Metropolitan to the local communities.
Now,
to
As
use
an
as a
after hours
bathhouse.
club.
I heard
And
that.
has, yes, that has
As
been
an
seriously
after-hours club.
proposed,
Yes, how wonderful.
as one of the auxiliary resources that the museum has planned
Well,
on
we
introducing.
at the Guggenheim
You would
have been
approve of that
renting.
sort of activity?
We've been renting out to a number of parties, bring in a little extra money.
Are you
You know, we
speaking
don't
officially
publicize
for the
it.
Guggenheim Museum, Mr.
Pardon me?
Hoving? Are you speaking officially for the Guggenheim Museum here?
Of course, of course.
yes, I'm
I
very
mean, I
happy
wouldn't
to
dream of speaking any other way.
Yes, of course. We were talking a few moments about quality of personnel, which I
Quality.
think is an enormously important issue, and recruitment of high-quality personnel, which is one of the major problems faced by all people in museum administration, such as yourselves. Could you tell us any steps that your museum has taken to ensure the high quality of your personnel and your recruitment programs?
Well, we do have a very, I think, a very good program. First of all, we believe that a healthy mind and a healthy body exist together, so that one of the ways of telling whether a person is really going to be of the caliber that we want is through a system of measurements. Now, for example, we have a certain proportion that's very important to us, and it is the proportion of the shoulder to the width of the head.
Well, the ancient Greek sculptors, Polyclitus and
Absolutely.
Praxiteles, felt these proportions were enormously important
Yes.
in determining the works that they were producing.
But there's
so
more.
it's no
The
reason-
length
Do you
of
have
the
a questionnaire form that everyone has to
Would you
fill
go
out?
on the
no,
street?
we
Would you
simply-
go on the street and measure?
Look, first,
Or do you
no,
ask for
you don't have
photographs?
to.
People who come
We
in,
always
then
have
they
photographs
then they
sent in
measure it.
first.
You know that after many years in this business, your eye becomes very finely tuned. Now, I can spot a
can
potential
spot.
staff member at least a block away. There is
So
a certain
if you're in
proportion from
subway
the
and it's
hip
crowded, would you ask them?
easily. Well, a
I
hip.
would imagine,
Well, I hand them a card and I say, I do hope that should this position interest you, you will apply for it. And I mean, there are other criteria as well. I think that teeth are extremely
So
important.
the usual meat market approach really isn't one that you would follow. You
no.
prefer a more aesthetic
Absolutely.
way to determine
Absolutely.
the eligibility of personnel.
You would agree.
Oh, certainly.
Would you
We at
consider
the
perhaps...
Guggenheim are affiliated with the Charm School on the Upper East Side, and we've had
Nice.
wonderful luck. We have a wonderful
Well,
group
that's
of
very
girls
interesting,
there
Mr.
now.
Hoving, because I was just going to suggest that perhaps museums might strengthen their liaison with the physical education departments at our local universities, and that this may be a way of recruiting fit people who aren't out sick every time you turn
and
around,
police training
and at the same time
academies
can
and
lift
things
the
of that
painting.
I
nature.
never
It's
thought.
Police
wonderful.
training, John Jay
You
College, I'm
can
sure,
yes,
could
John
provide
Jay
a
is
good deal of
marvelous.
personnel.
A marvelous
Well, that
teacher,
certainly is a very adventurous idea,
Not lately, I
and I
haven't,
think
no.
that maybe we can move on now to another subject,
Big muscles in women.
if I may
I find them
interrupt.
very becoming.
I know how
And very
enthusiastic you
ethical.
find
Very
the subject
enthusiastic.
that we're
When
talking
people walk
about.
into a museum and see a
They
woman with big,
expect to
with big
see
biceps,
a woman
No,
They're-
well,
they're
you know, I mean,
biceps.
you see,
They
if you,
not gonna fool
simply
around.
do.
none
You know,
of us
they
waste our
expect-
time. If you
I have a
sort of
question I'd
lift,
like to
you know, when you're
address,
sitting this way,
if I
it
may
really,
interrupt. I'd like to address this question to Mr. Hoving again. It has to
Hovland,
do,
please.
excuse me, Mr. Hovland, rather. Mr. Hovland is an official of the Guggenheim Museum, the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum in Manhattan. In the past,
88th
88th and 5th Avenue.
Between 80th and 89th
And
Street.
we
and
can
Fifth
give a little
Avenue.
plug for the Guggenheim Museum, why not? What is your free day at the Guggenheim Museum? I'm sure people would like to know that.
Yes, we have a free.
You do.
Yes.
How
Yes.
many
Would you care to
actually
tell
take
our
advantage
audience
of
every day?
it?
We have many, many people that do.
Do you recommend going
you
on the
give
free day,
us
or
a
would you
free
suggest
day?
people go on the
No,
pay day? It's too
No,
hectic.
No, no. It's not that it's hectic, but it's the type of
Too many
person-
people from the community are coming
Well,
in, I
it's the type of
suppose.
person that you don't want to rub
Yeah, you
shoulders
don't want,
with.
you want, I mean, it's rather.
You want to come on
They
a
make a lot of
Sunday.
noise.
It's
All
the
those
Sunday, you know,
local people.
people are
Wheelchairs?
people that you want
Oh,
to
I would.
associate with are
Are
working,
there on a
and they don't
Sunday.
come on a Tuesday night.
of
They come
course
on a
not.
Saturday and Sunday.
I know,
There's the
Which
time when
is
you
the
when
best
you rub
time to go
shoulders
to the Guggenheim
with
Museum, the
cream
nicest
of the
crowd.
crop. Pardon
The
me?
best crowd is at what days?
Pardon?
The best crowd.
Sundays, of course, Sundays.
I'd say
Sundays,
Sunday
leisure days.
after 1 o'clock.
You don't get
after
too many
church and
families
brunch.
on Sundays?
Pardon?
You don't get too many families?
Oh, no, no, no.
No,
They're
the
always
nannies
off
take care of
doing their
This is
skating
modern
and their
art. This is
skiing.
modern art. You know, it's not attracted to the family type.
I wonder what the best time to be, because I'm sure that many of our viewers are going to want to visit Monmouth County Museum in, could you tell us where exactly the Monmouth County Museum is, if you recall?
It's located very near the Parkway.
Uh-huh.
And one can,
And
in
how many
fact,
hours does it
hear
take to
the
drive from the
hours.
George Washington
It takes
Bridge?
several hours from the George Washington Bridge, but it
I
is a
see.
lovely drive. One does go through the
can
industrial
we go by
area of
taxi?
New
Is
Jersey.
that out of
You could take
Manhattan?
taxi.
No, I think
Is that
I
off
have
off
seen-
Manhattan?
Yes, directly off Manhattan. Well, it's actually straight across from Coney Island. You could, in
But is
fact,
that,
get there if you
is that
took a boat.
accessible by the subway?
So our visitor,
Yes,
our...
you could. Of course, you could take the PATH train, and you could do, you know,
And the
you
MTA
could
too?
get the,
MTA.
yes, yes, and you could get there.
Dr.
It's
Barron,
quite
how do
How
accessible.
do
we
you
have
get
any-
there every day?
Well, I get
The
there
museum
every
does-
day by automobile automobile.
Where do you
Oh,
live?
they don't, they don't
We
send
spend
anyone
great
out to get
time.
you?
Well, oh, no, no.
We have
Oh,
some
my
prepared
dear.
questions
Oh, my
that we would
dear.
like to
I wouldn't work. I wouldn't work.
Dr.
If
Van
they don't
Baaren.
send a car to get you.
This chatting is most fascinating,
I
but we'd like
wouldn't.
to get to some of the precise details. Would you recommend that our viewers who have boats at the West Side Boat Basin
Absolutely.
go by ship, by sea
Yes,
to
I
the
would recommend that.
County
There are
Museum?
many marinas
That'd be
in the
wonderful.
area.
What
that
is your
would be
free day
perfect.
at the Monmouth
Well,
County?
any day that I choose can be our free day.
Isn't that
Yes.
nice?
It's wonderful
So
to
wonderful,
see.
yeah.
It is nice to be the director.
And what
have
is the
this
best, when do you get
prerogative.
your best crowd? Not too many
Our
Jersey
best crowd
people.
is definitely on Sunday afternoon,
Very
yes.
good.
After brunch.
Correct.
It's not too
After
crowded
lunch.
at that time?
That's correct.
I would
And
like
none
to
of the
say
staff is
something
there,
about
of course, which
the
is
museum.
It might be a good
definitely
idea,
the
if yes, we're going
best
to
day.
ask about the new museum in due course, Ms. Tucker. You'll just
Well,
be patient.
I was hoping it would be
And-
sooner rather than later.
Yes, we'll
What do
get
you
to it,
sell
I'm
in
sure
your,
of that.
in your gift shop?
Would you
Plastic
suggest that people should
soldiers.
link...
Plastic.
Little plastic knights we've found are quite effective, and whistles.
Yes,
long,
well, I'm sure the
long
gift shop is
whistles
only
that
one of
make a
many
lot
activities
noise.
that
Have
must
you
interest
thought
people
about
at the Monmouth
macrame
County
potholders?
Museum.
I have thought about them, yes.
Because now I put a note in some of the free publications
Well,
on
you
the
see,
Upper
what
East
you
Side.
really have to do
And
is
we've had
you develop
response
your
from
outreach
all, from
program
the,
so that
Do you
so
take
that the
mail orders,
workshops-
Mr.
so that the
Hogan? Do you
workshops
take mail
produce the
orders
goods.
Oh,
at your
certainly,
museum?
yes,
A mail order
certainly.
Is that a
Your most
significant portion
vital.
of your business?
Our
Oh,
little
yes,
plastic
I'd have to
knights.
say so, yes.
Is there
Our
free
little
parking at the
plastic
Monmouth
knights and our
County Museum,
outfits.
Dr. Van Baaren?
Why, no,
Or does someone
of
have to
course
pay to
not.
park
One has
there?
to pay.
And do you have free parking at the new museum?
No, but we're free.
Oh, I see. Well, where
Yes.
does one park if one visits the new museum? Perhaps you could tell us where the new museum, speaking of merchandising, the new museum, of course, is housed in a former department store.
Lanes.
No, Lanes, yes.
Does that
Where
help you? Does
14th
that
Street
help you
fashions
with
used to be
displaying
Fifth Avenue
You gotta
prices.
drink that.
Does that help you with your display in terms of the,
Easily.
the
There is an
exhibitions
aura
themselves?
which
Is the
remains.
layout, yes,
yeah. But
yes.
I would like to mention that there were two major fires on 14th Street yesterday.
wonderful.
One began in the morning, lasted
Did
all
you have
day.
a smoke sale?
Well, no, we didn't because we don't have a gift shop, but
Oh,
they
dear.
closed down
Well,
all the
perhaps
offices.
the paintings that you have.
Well, how
on
do
there.
you
Two
finance?
major.
If you have no gift shop, how do you finance operations at your
Yes, what
museum?
do you do?
But we do.
Mr. I'm
We
sure
have.
we'd
We
like to
have.
know. It'd be
We
fascinating
have
to
something
know.
which I generally don't like to talk about publicly, which is what we call our bear trap program.
Bear trap
Our
program.
bear trap
Well,
program.
I'm sure we'd like to hear all about that if you have the time to give
Oh, I
give
have.
us some
I do.
information, please.
And you know, the
Title.
police.
And if Dr. Van Baaren and Mr. Hoving could be quiet for a moment, we would like to hear what Ms. Tucker has to say about her
it's a
bear.
simple method
It's
of
such an-
recruitment.
it's
It's a
such a
simple
very-
method of
very-
recruitment.
One
very
sets a trap.
Discreetly located. We call them bear
How's-
traps. They're more
how's the
subtle than
shopping?
that.
How's the shopping
The
downtown?
shopping is terrible. It's terrible. 14th Street has absolutely nothing, nothing worthy, except
But isn't it an
for-
area where people who are
There's
in
a
the area shopping think, let's stop at the museum.
no,
We're in the area.
They
let's
generally
stop
think,
by."
let's
Shopping
break the new
is to
museum
all of us.
windows.
We've discussed...
What a nice
Which is good
neighborhood.
because you get a little fresh air going through.
You don't
know.
have to wash the windows then.
No, you don't, because there is constant, I mean, one of the things we worry about, of course, temperature control,
And
humidity,
fingerprints.
you know,
I mean, you know, the
but we
fingerprints
do
are
not
just
have the
a-
problem. I
an
mean,
outrage.
there is always...
Dr.
I've
Van
heard that
Baaren,
can be damaging to
may
the
I
art-
address
to the
questions
art.
to
Well,
you
I mean, sometimes.
concerning
Would you
the
care for some
works
more
of
wine?
art
You know, I'm
that,
really getting thirsty. You know, I'm having
well,
such a
please.
good time.
somebody,
You know, I'm really
maybe that should be
thirsty.
your
Would you
last.
And
I
this
would love
is so
some wine.
delicious.
Thank
That
you. It's
perhaps
a
be
lovely
enough for
wine.
Dr. Van Baaren as
We
well.
are enjoying
Well, just a
It
small
is
drop,
just
please.
the most delicious wine.
Yes,
I
Thank
have
you
to
very
know.
much.
It's
Mr.
very
Banquet,
nice.
where did
I
you get
think
that
we
wine?
should sell
Where did
wine.
you?
Do you
Slim
have a
Burgundy,
wine
isn't
list
it?
at your shop?
The
No, but
Fixin
I couldn't have
Everlay
given
is
I
one
think
of
that
the-
would be
Where
very
did you
appropriate.
get- where
for
did you
a
buy
wonderful
that
wine
wine?
You know,
list
this
at
is
the shop.
Where did you buy that?
You don't have to shake all the sediment into the glass, Ms.
outdoor
Tucker.
cafe
That really wasn't
for
quite
summertime
necessary.
would
Now,
be
where did you
lovely.
get this one?
But
Well,
certainly a
we
wine
don't like to
list.
say, because we don't like to plug local merchants on this program. This is not a commercial
Oh, is this a
program, it's an
local
But you know,
educational
this is
program.
what the art world
So
has
we
to
would
do. It has
rather
to go
not
into the
talk
commercial
about
You know,
commercial.
eating,
items.
drinking,
It has to get into the commercial.
sleeping are
That's what
part
we
of the
want to.
aesthetic
Oh,
experience.
I want to introduce, how nice of you to come here.
I'm so sorry that I'm late.
Well,
I
it's very
had
nice.
3 meetings this afternoon,
No.
and they just went on and on.
I want to,
Isn't that
It was-
amazing?
that's
I
just-
know,
that's
it's
all the
museum.
details.
Oh, thank
Yes,
you.
it is.
I'd like to
We in the
introduce you to
museum
our
field
panelists.
do understand these
We're going to
problems.
introduce to you Mr. Our new guest, who has just arrived a few minutes late, is Dr. Marsha. Lefrancoise, Jerry Lefrancoise, who is fiddle,
Lefrancois.
Lefrancois rather,
Wow.
who is Francois.
Francois.
Did I get it right?
That's
right.
right.
Good. Do you know here we have Mr. Hoving,
We
an
have
official
some
of the
wonderful
Guggenheim Museum.
Oh, yes,
Mr. Hoving.
I've read about him.
hand
Mr. Hoving, this is,
How do
I
you
want to
do?
introduce to you Mr. Francois, who
These
just
flowers,
arrived.
they kind of
They're lovely, Gregory.
Very nice flowers. And
Very
Dr.
nice
Van
flowers.
Baron, director of the
How do
Monmouth
you
County
do?
Museum
The
in
Mammoth County?
Yes.
Monmouth County Museum in New Jersey. And the new museum is represented at our discussion today by Marcia Tucker,
Have you had some
who has come
wine?
all the way up
No,
to
I
14th
haven't.
Street.
Like some wine. Is there wine left for this
And,
gentleman?
oh, by all means,
We
yes.
have to have
There's not too much wine left, is there?
I would
At
love
least
some. I
there's
guess there's
something.
not an extra chair.
Well,
Do you want to kind of
No,
sit
it's
over,
all right. I'll-
sit over here?
I'll just
We
sit
could
here.
move over a little bit.
This is there.
No, this is fine.
did you bring any
kind of
materials
Oh, I brought a
explaining
lot.
the outreach programs at the Brooklyn Museum? We'd like particularly to know your role at the Brooklyn Museum is coordinator of outreach activities. Is that correct?
No. The title is Coordinator of Public Programs.
Well, coordinator anyway, yes.
CPP.
All right, and you are the coordinator of the
Well,
Brooklyn
public
Museum.
programs.
That's one of the most vital
Perhaps you
questions
could
for
tell us
all
something about the
museum
program.
Is the
administrators to answer
Public
is who
programs.
is our public and
Yes.
what you want.
Would
And
you
how
look
can
at
we
this?
best and how can we best serve this public?
Well, actually, in
you
order
looked
to
at that?
explain this, I brought many
Do you have a job
materials which I would
description
like
that you
to
would
organize
Take them out of your
before-
bag and put them in order there first.
Yes, let me
before you do
let
anything.
order,
called,
order these
have a
first, and then we'll
discussion
go on. I like this
Mice,
very well ordered before.
Dr. Van Baron,
Do you sell
We have-
dresses?
No, not yet. We're thinking of going
I
into a
think we've
blazer.
discussed the
a
shopping
blazer.
opportunities at
Maximum involvement in
Artists
citizens
have-
and
No,
Yes,
we
with
can-
an insignia. I think
Artists
you know about our
fabrics.
program, maximum involvement in
Yes, one
citizens
could do
and
that.
migrants.
Well, I do want to
I
ask
would
you about
think
the
of
MICE
a line
program
by
at
Steve
the
Which would be, you know,
at the new
having
museum.
meat,
Yes, thank you.
we could sell for a great
Dr.
deal,
Van
and
Baron,
consequently, the
may we
markup
have your
could be
attention for a moment, please?
considerable,
We'd like to discuss some matters concerning the exhibition of art and the various programs that are designed at the museums in order to bring new, exciting artworks of a
Yes.
high quality
One must
to the
first
attention
sell
of the
one's
communities.
permanent collection.
One must,
Absolutely,
But
the
that's
extension
so
is very
That
important.
is the
One
most
must first have
avant-garde
money
thing to do.
to
That's
put
one
on
thing
the
I
exhibition,
didn't have on my notes here.
you bring the
Ones
money in through
must
the
get
sale
rid of
shop,
these permanent
which
collections.
I
Sell
think
them off
dresses
very
is a
quickly.
wonderful new
Dresses?
idea. Dresses,
Well,
sell dresses,
Things hand printed, you know, by artists.
We were
artists
wondering-
sell them in the
that maybe
bookstores.
Obviously, the
Signed,
had something, you know, a
limited.
blazer with an insignia.
A blazer
would
is
be better.
much more
I think a
tasteful.
blazer.
I think that we all agree
what
that
about-
T-shirts,
what
we all
about-
of course have
Yes,
T-shirts. but
hand-screen
paper.
t-shirts.
You know, ours
Paper
is a kind of silver
Paper
glitter
dresses.
Art Deco
Yes.
designed
Oh,
by
yes,
Edward
yes.
Flood on
Marvelous one.
black fitted.
Yes,
right?
good.
Very-
Little French
Oh, so
dresses,
you
nice
seem to have
little
brought some
260,
slides with you
260
I brought slides
units.
just in
Of course,
case.
that's the
That's the
Shall we
uniform.
put them
That's
up
what
on
we're
the
saying.
table for a
And
moment?
what kind
Sure.
of discount
That's
would you
fine.
give
I wonder
another
if-
museum that's in the city?
If I interrupt just for a
$1.
moment, would you like
Do
to
you
see
remember
Ms.
that?
Francoise has brought along some slides for us to look at?
Oh,
Actually, we really-
I've always loved looking at
Yes.
I think
slides.
that that's a very,
I really like
You know,
Look at
I
those
really, if I don't have a
program.
slide to look
I'm
at,
sure they
I
all
begin
want
to
to,
actually
after
get a
this
little
program, they will want
Yes,
to.
I really
To
do.
watch
Nothing
over
does
the
I
slides.
enjoy
That
more
point
than
of
bringing
reference.
slides.
The point of
You know, I even
reference
bring them
is
on lunch.
incredibly important.
At lunch,
Now,
I
people
really-
do say
Definitely
you
the slide
cannot
is the
tell
point of
from
reference.
slides what a work of art
But
is
that's
like.
not
I
true.
disagree.
We know
I
that.
disagree
All of
also.
us, you know, I mean, we can hold
Oftentimes
up a
they're
sheet of slides
better.
and
They can
recognize
be better.
quality immediately.
Absolutely.
The subject of communications is one that interests all of you, being people in the public eye and people who are bringing a great
Yes,
deal of
thank you.
information and a
Say,
variety of
bulk mail
types
Did you
for
take
the
off that
community.
bulk mail? Did you
lose
take
button?
that?
Are you
Did you pop this button off?
Bulk mail
If
is
you had
the
When
had
I
an
walked into the studio
we
today,
had tried
this
to
button
provide
is
our
on
members
here.
with
In
at
our
least
gift
£2
shop.
a week.
Bulk
You
mail,
would
I'm
not have
sure,
had
is
this
one way.
And
You
if
know
you
what you
wait
could
the
do? You
day
could
before the
print
exhibition, it will take 6 weeks,
As the insignia
and
of
they'll get it for the
Guggenheim.
major program that you're doing.
And it will be
We'll
surprised
leave
and they
out
will
all the other
raise.
stuff.
Now, you see, now we have a
Someone's
sort of
lost a button.
slack at the end of the year. What?
Somebody
Someone
has
lost
Sure,
a
could you
button.
wait until the
Pilfered
program is
my
over,
button.
One of the
Mr.
things
Hoving,
that you
and we
should
can
do,
go
you
over
know,
this.
you should
But
get rid
I
of,
know
get
it's
rid
not-
of
it's
the
just-
thread.
it
Well,
just
just a
happened.
minute.
I-
Here,
It's time.
You don't pick at it.
No, look, I've gotten
Save that. Save
I should
that.
like at this
Save that, we
time
could sell
to
it.
sum up some of the, I'm going to sum up
Here's
some of the
Lisa.
issues that we've been talking about. We've discussed
Would you
at great
like some
length the
more wine?
problem
I
of
would.
parking,
Oh, well, I
of
could
Let me
bulk
know.
mailing,
Just
of
leave
gift
wine.
shop resources,
Where did you
Public
buy it?
program.
various ways
Just
in
a
which
moment, Dr.
museum
Van Baron.
resources
We always
And
need
I
to
and
think
the
it's
auxiliary
really
activities that are sponsored by the museum can be expanded in order to engage
really
the
like this
imaginations
one.
of the community and in order to reach out to the various segments that could profit, that could develop. Don't shake the sediment into the wine. That's the second time you did that, Ms.
No,
Tucker.
you get tired.
And the community can be involved in the various programs that are bringing all of the new ideas, the aesthetic provocations, the various intellectual stimulations that are so typical of today's, or that are being brought to us by today's adventurous museum. Our guests today, if I may sum up, have been Mr. Jerry Lefrancois, well-known artist and an official of the Brooklyn Museum. And we have Mr. Chuck Holding, who is sales supervisor of the Solomon R. Guggenheim Collections in Manhattan. Dr. Judith Van Baren, Director-in-Chief of the Monmouth County Museum, who has come all the way from Monmouth County, New Jersey, and the very distinguished and very elegant Miss Marsha Tucker, the director of the New Museum, one of the most stimulating and exciting places that have opened in recent years in Manhattan for the exhibition, for the display, for the bringing of new art to an interested community. And I think, taking enough wine, would you please put the glass down at this point, Dr. Van Baren? That's your third glass, and you're only supposed to have two. The technicians are waiting there, and they want some of the wine. You didn't have to take it all. Did you go through all of your materials that you have brought
I
with you?
have not
Great, thanks.
hardly.
Could you start putting them back in your bag?
Yes, I will.
Because I think that we have
That's
done
our
quite
senior.
enough.
That's
And
our
would you be so
latest
kind
program.
as to not knock the flowers over?
I'll be very careful.
Because
I
that's
do
something
not.
that you don't have to do. Be careful of my vase. Okay, are we all?
That's in-house.
Okay, you can all shut up now.
We don't want to. We're having a very nice time. Thank you.